Well, welcome everybody tonight.
Ring my bell, wouldn't it?
I'm gonna have to hit this again, do I? It's a rowdy bunch tonight. So
And there's not very many of them.
I have to. Okay,
Oh no, I think he's talking about the audience.
I got to stop the press here now.
Put a cork in it.
Oh, you guys, like I got no authority. I've been banging this, and you guys keep talking. I got to
Stop
keep
the
going.
press.
Anyways, thanks everybody for quieting down, and we'll get into this. I have no authority whatsoever. We have to ring the big bell from now on.
All right, you let me know. I'll
Big
ring the
bell.
bell.
Anyways, it's all good, and we got a few people here tonight. We want to get going, and it's been a long day. So early. So we're moving in minutes. Moved by Councillor Gunson, second by Councillor McKenzie. The previous minutes of February 5th, 2019 council meeting and closed session meeting are approved. All in favor? Okay. Any additional items? I have one.
One?
You do?
I have a couple, maybe.
Oh, Ron has a couple. Hey, no. All right, that's good. Okay. Any more later? We'll figure it out. And next up, moved by Councillor Anderson, second by Councillor Elliott. The Town of Minto Council convenes in a committee of adjustment. All in favor? All right. Okay, we're in the committee of adjustments, and this is for a public meeting. And this public meeting is for a minor variance, MV 2019-02, Lammers, 6137 3rd line, Town of Minto. I'll chair the public meeting in order to publicly state any decision reached by this committee today cannot be used to set a precedent. Each application is considered by the committee is dealt with on its own merits, and no two applications are exactly the same. Public hearing is to consider a minor variance file number MV 2019-02, Lammers. And I'll chair it. I'll turn it over to the Secretary Treasurer to state the following.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. The subject property is legally described as concession 2, part lot 19, RP 61 R 10575, parts 1 to 3, municipally known as 6137 3rd line, Town of Minto. The subject land is approximately 1.17 hectares or 2.88 acres in size. The purpose and effect of the application is to permit the construction of a 325.16 square meter or 3,500 square foot accessory structure, whereas section 6.1.4b of the Town of Minto's Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 0186 as amended permits a maximum size of 134.7 square meters or 1,450 square feet. Notices were mailed to the property owners within 200 feet or 60 meters of the subject property, as well as the applicable agencies on February the 4th, 2019, posted on the subject property and circulated to staff on the same date. And the following comments were received from the Town of Minto Building Assistant. We have a staff report, and the County of Wellington Planner also submitted a report.
Okay. Now I'll call on the applicant or agent, followed by comments for the County Planner. Did you want to say anything, Harold? Yep.
So yeah, just a workshop. I like to play the viewer and some stories as well.
Okay.
Just need to get bigger than what's allowed because I don't have a walk behind the scenes over.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's only the first time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And you want to do county and town, or you? Thanks, Michelle.
The subject property is rural residential and the lot is zoned agricultural. The permitted uses include single detached dwellings and accessory structures. As mentioned by the applicant, it's purely for his woodworking hobby and storage needs, and the variance is allowing for an increase of 190.46 meters square. Town staff met and there were no concerns issued because of the intent of the being personal. The County of Wellington has also provided comment in support of the application, but they have requested that the condition be added that the accessory structure is only used for personal use, and the suggested condition is now in the in line with the intent of the application and is now in your decision of approval.
Okay. Any questions for county or the town, or for Harold? I should have. Well, oh, so the personal use is already in there, so that would be the only thing that would be a concern. Okay, thank you. All right. I don't see anybody speaking against it out there, unless I'm missing somebody. So there's two resolutions. That's right. We have two resolutions. One in favor. We'll pass that one around. What I'm getting the drift that everybody's in favor of. Let's see. I think it's in there, right? You're signing in favor, or if you're not in favor, then don't sign it. And if you're not opposed, we have an opposed one.
We'll see how this goes.
Right. So this goes.
Looking good.
One more and you won't have to send the other one. And still send it. Oh. Okay. Resolution's carried. Need a mover and seconder. Deputy Mayor Burton and Councillor Elliott, all in favor? Very good. That's all there. You've already said you're in favor there. Good. And I will just state anyone wishing to receive a copy of the notice of decision to please sign the request for notice of decision prior to leaving the council chamber following the meeting. Now I'll declare this meeting closed. Harold? We're all set. Okay. Let's move out, right? Moved by Deputy Mayor Turton, second by Councillor Johnson, that the Town of Minto Committee of Adjustments convenes into Committee of the Whole. All in favor? Next up is delegations, and I guess we have our County Councillor David Anderson coming up to do a little bit, and I'm going to do a little bit as well. So, welcome, David.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge and Council. It's good to be here again. First time of this term, and I'd like to wish all the councillors that got elected to their positions again, and look forward to working with you for the next 4 years on behalf of the Town of Minto and also the County of Wellington. Congratulations, everyone. And we've got a lot of neat stuff ahead of us. And I will start. I think Mayor Bridge is going to come up and finish up with a sort of a little bit of where the budget of the County of Wellington went. So he's going to upgrade us on that. I've got some really interesting statistics from the Minto landfill site, and I think I was going through the engineering part of our department, and it's some neat stuff that I've never heard before. So I thought that you'd be interested in hearing a couple of the numbers that have come forward. In the County of Wellington, there's only really one landfill site, and that's at Riverston in North Wellington. So basically, there's transfer stations in the County of Wellington, and all the garbage that is actually buried actually is transported over to Riverston. In the year of 2018, basically there was 30,420 people that visited the landfill site, which breaks down weekly. It's about 585 people per week, and that's only the landfill site's only open 3 days a week, so that's a pretty active landfill site. The annual operating cost for the transfer station in Minto is $333,000, and the annual tipping fees is $152,000. So that's the difference on that. Now, in this last budget, we did increase a couple of rates per tonnage. You were paying $75 a ton in the old rates. We did increase that by $5, so it's gone up to $80 per ton. We've increased a couple of minor things about you could get way tickets and stuff like that from the county, and I think that only went up $5. They used to charge you $10. It went up $15 now, and there's a couple odd things, but in generally the bag tags and everything are staying the same at the $2 per bag tag. And their curbside collection is still happening in the County of Wellington in general. So from the Harrison transfer station, the materials buried at the landfill site and the diverted from the landfill site are all in metric tons. So when I give you these numbers, these are in metric tons. So the total garbage buried in Riverston from Harrison transfer station was 1,255 tons. Total diverted materials from Harrison transfer station was 712 tons. And a breakdown of basically the materials that were diverted, your blue box material, like your blue box program with your containers and papers, there was 207 tons of that. Wood, there was 373 tons of wood, and most of that wood is all chipped and sent on and recycled. Tires, there were 20 tons of tires collected last year. 64 tons of scrap metal. 19 tons of waste electronics. 3 tons of textiles. And the textiles, there's a holding bin out there that people can take used clothing to, and it gets taken away, but some of the stuff is non-collectible, so they get rid of it that way. There's a permanent household hazardous waste depot that collects 13 tons of waste that's on site. And then as of last year, the County of Wellington started a mobile household hazardous waste trailer that moves around to all the not only the landfill sites, but also the transfer stations. And this year in the town of Minto, it's coming to in the month of April and December. And last year they collected 14 tons. So what that is it's paint, old paint, bar saw, oils. You can still take that to the permanent household hazardous waste, but they limit on some of the stuff they will take, but this trailer will take it all. So it gives you a chance to clean out your basements and your garages and get rid of some stuff that shouldn't be there. So that's kind of cool. The County of Wellington last year received an award through SWANA, a silver award. And what SWANA stands for, it's Solid Waste Association of North America. And I think the award was given out of Chicago, I do believe, Marybridge. And it's just recognizing this campaign of this rotational trailer moving around the County of Wellington and diverting a lot of this household hazardous waste. Because up to now, people were just dumping it, getting rid of it that way. So a great recycling program. So those are some pretty neat specs from that. I wasn't aware of those numbers, so it was kind of neat to bring that forward and share with you on that. The next I'm going to talk about is our Wellington County Library statistics. I was able to send you a sheet on that, and that's just giving you the numbers for the last year. We actually were able to we have a Palmerston Minto resident who is a retired library branch manager and also a past Town of Minto counselor, was appointed to the library board, and her name's Barb Burrows, and I think everybody here knows Barb quite well. And I know she'll be a good representative for us on the library board, and she'll bring a lot of expertise. So she's on for the next 4 years. The Town of Minto's county library system, they're very active and they're being very well used. And if you look through your charts, you'll see that. And when you compare the circulation status statistics with the previous year and the programming report compared to the programming reports comparing to the month of January of this year and the month of January of 2018, it just shows that our libraries are definitely a meeting place for our community members to go to. We had some stats on libraries through the North American Library Association, and it's proven fact that every dollar you donate towards a library system, you get $5 back in return. So it's through the County of Wellington, we've got 14 libraries, and they are all in great shape, and it's an economic development engine, and I think Marybridge will know that it's a great draw to our community. So we're very fortunate to have our system that we've got. Our next report, and I gave you a full report of this, and this is the OPP report. And our inspector, Inspector Lawson, does this monthly for us, and it just gives you a little bit of a perspective of what's happening in the County of Wellington. Comparing to 2017 statistics to 2018, in most all areas, there's been a considerable increase in calls for service, victim services, suspect apprehension pursuits, which really increased from 8 to 22 occurrences from 2017, 2018. And what those are is when people get pulled over and the officer gets out of the car, they take off. And that's awful serious. So that's on a huge increase. And in general, all crimes in general are increasing. We have a lot of different subcommittees in our OPP force. And one thing I would like to bring forward just is the Community Street Crime Unit. And a lot of it is performed by off-duty officers and undercover officers also. And I'm going to read you just the paragraph on the bottom of the page 29. And it says in 2018, Wellington County, the CSCU, which stands for Community Streets Unit, Crime Unit, and was involved in 298 occurrences, executed 3 search warrants, laid 135 CDSA charges, and that's CDSA stands for Controlled Drugs and Substance Act, and 495 criminal charges, seized $67,481 worth of offense-related property, $34,312 in Canadian currency, and $126,795 worth of controlled substance. So that's very active, and the inspector wanted me to read that specifically to you just to give you an idea of what's happening out there. We also have, which is another very good group, is our impact team. And I think at our last council meeting, Mayor Bridge, we mentioned that what our impact team is. And you know, it's made up of 3 CMA clinicians, they're from the Canadian Mental Health Association. They're trained people that deal with people that are have mental depressions. They deal with people that have drug overdoses, drug addicts, along with another constable. And what they do is when they get a call from 911 and there's a domestic and they know there's something involved in either drugs or there's mental issues, this team will go out and they will address the situation at the time. And some neat things about that is in the last year they had 29 calls that were called that the impact team had to respond to. And by them responding to this, what they did was they diverted 19 of those calls were situations where if they hadn't shown up, the 29 issues, they would have shown up at a hospital. So what this does is it defers a lot of pressure that's coming to the hospitals, and this impact team is able to diffuse the situation right on site. So it's another a good program that's moving forward, and they're getting busier and busier and busier. So in our communities, when you see the rates and the numbers and the calls increasing on a regular basis, the OPP, County of Wellington, are looking at establishing a community safe and well-being plan. And at our last police services board meeting, and the neat thing about this is that our committee meeting was just last week, so even the County of Wellington hasn't seen this report yet, so you're getting the first on this. So what they're doing is they're going to each municipality and doing assessment on risk management. They're talking to each municipality, we'll be talking to each municipality and saying, what are your concerns, what are your issues, and how can we work together to address those issues? Hoping to drop the numbers of calls that I have talked about and that you've seen in the reports earlier. So that's just all pre-budget. This is just basically a draft plan. They're going to be talking to all the municipalities and getting their direction and their concern. And then what's going to happen is they're going to come forward with an actual plan that we'll have to endorse each municipality to enforce this, to deal with some of the issues that are happening out there. So it's really to try to make our municipalities safer. So that's where we're moving forward with that. They have, in Wellington County, and it's been around for quite a while, is the Wellington County Crime Stoppers program, and basically what they're doing is it's a tip program that they go to the community to try to get tips on what's happening out there. They inform the police and they try to resolve issues that are happening. They have their group and their board is made up of volunteers and representation from all of Wellington County, also the city of Guelph. And I was actually surprised to know that there's nobody from Minto on that committee, which would be great to have somebody on that committee. It's a volunteer group. They mostly meet in Guelph and around the county. But I would like to see somehow that, and it doesn't have to be a counselor. It could be any individual that would like to sit on that committee. But my goal is to try to get somebody to come forward to represent the town of Minto on that committee. one of the things that the inspector was asked when they get the drinking and driving crimes that are out there, he was asked, in perspective, how many people that you pull over that you're charging with drinking and driving, how many people are from outside the county and how many people are from Wellington County? So he looked up those specs, and basically a third of the charges that are laid for drinking and driving are people that live, are residents from the county of Wellington. So he was asked that question, and so he looked at those specs, and
2/3 are outside.
yep. Because there's a lot of people that come through the county of Wellington, but 1/3 of the charges that are laid are from residents in the county of Wellington. This year, every year, with the last 16 years, the Ontario Provincial Police have hosted a family day on Labor Day weekend. And what they've decided that they've asked Wellington County to host that this year. It's going to be on September the 2nd, on Monday, at the Palmerston Fairgrounds. It's going to be supported by detachments from Huron, Grey, Perth, South Bruce, South Peninsula. And what they're doing is it starts at 10 a.m. till 3. It's a barbecue. It's just, I think the local firefighters are going to be involved in it. The paramedics, EMS are going to be there. It's going to be like if you want to call it a touch and truck show, like you'll be able to talk to a police officer. You're going to see what they're doing in the communities and stuff like that. It's all free. They'll have raffles and things like that. And they're going to be taking, and the charities that they're going to direct it towards is called Camp Bases, which is for people that are in that have been involved, or police officers that have had maybe families that have had a police officer killed in action. The money goes to, it's like victims for the police services. So that's what that money is going to. And also, I've got back on 911 is another program that they would put that forward to. So that's coming, and you'll probably hear a lot more of it when the information gets out there. The last thing I'd like to talk to you today is the Wellington County Palmerston Early Learning and Childcare Center. It's very active. It's going. It's on 540 Prospect Street in Palmerston. I thought I would give you a brief outline of just a breakdown of the availability of that childcare center. The center's licensed, and its capacity is 49 children. This includes 10 infants, right from birth to 18 months. There's room for 15 toddlers from 18 months to 30 months. And then there's room for 24 preschoolers from 30 months to 6 years of age. It's open Monday through Friday from 6:30 in the morning through to 6 p.m. And the current center employs 20 staff, which includes full-time teachers, part-time teaching assistants, a supervisor, and a cook. And part of the money that you're paying for this, they do give you everybody a meal, a lunch, and a breakfast part of that. So right now, there's still available spaces. It's not full yet, and so they're still looking for people to, if they're interested in childcare, do contact. And I have an email address here. It's palmerstoncc@wellington.ca, and their office number is 519-417-2902. And I knew when I opened this for questions, somebody would ask how much it's going to cost, so I have those numbers here. So basically, this is childcare per child, and it's broken down. There's different categories under family income, and this is your approximate cost per month. So if you're on Ontario Works or ODSP, or if you make under $20,000 a year, there's no cost. It's totally subsidized by the county. If you make $30,000 a year, and this is combined income, so if you're a single parent or a couple, your combined income, if it's under $30,000, it would cost you $83 per month. If you make under $40,000, it's $167 per month. If you make under $50,000, it's $417 per month. And if you make $60,000 and above, it's $667 per month. And that's per child. So, Mr. Mayor, that's my report.
Thank you. And you're open for questions, I take it.
I'm open for questions, yes.
Any questions for Dave?
Yeah, I have a question.
Definitely.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you, David, for coming. That was exciting. And I could tell just by your giving your report that you're excited about a lot of that stuff that's happening in the county. I mean, it's a lot of good stuff. You mentioned that every dollar that's spent on the libraries, there's $5 returned. How's that? How do they figure that out?
Well, they have, if you look at our library system, you look at the different aspects of the library system. It's more than just book rentals and stuff like that. It's meeting centers. People come and meet to it. People come from afar. We had just last Friday night, we had the Basement Cafe in Harrison. So, you know, there are groups that put on functions and they make money there, so they're bringing people into the community. Those are just examples. We also do and Mark, you're involved in this with the Historical Society. A lot of our libraries have available spaces for different functions within the community that they can put displays and stuff like that people will come. Our Canada Packers display was a perfect example. You know, they had a great venue up in the second floor of the library. There was people from all over that came just to see that display, for instance. So when they come to see different things like that, they also come and spend money in the community. So it's an economic engine for that. You know, so it draws people to the community. So that's where the investment comes in. And there's probably a few things that I haven't brought forward on that. It's a meeting place for a community. You know, there's
Sure is.
in our situation, we have a lot of people that do not have computers at home and are computer illiterate. I'm pretty close to that, but I'm getting better. We have our staff that will, if you don't know how to run a computer and you want to, any forms now, everything has to be downloaded. So if you go to our local libraries, and our staff will help you download specific forms for many different things, whether it's Canada Pension paper documents or applications for anything on that. So it's really a super assist to our community that way. So, Mayor Bridge, do you have any other thing?
A good example is I would take from an economic development standpoint, where that part of that number is, as well as what David said, and additional is a good example of saying in Fergus, we have 1,000 people a day go to the Fergus Library. Okay, so that's a downtown location. They've got 2-box store situations on both sides. It creates traffic for the local merchants that are downtown. So what they're talking about is that spin-off, that by having that traffic for people to actually come down, they have to walk by stores, they have to park in front of, and that would be an added value. A good example in Ferguson, when they were doing the library, they moved the temporary library down to the far side, and all those businesses saw a 25% increase in their business, just because the library was there and everybody was coming by their stores to go to the library. So those are the types of things. There's a soft cost, but the economic development people will come up with a guideline as to so many dollars. Similar to when you have a big event and you bring people into your community, they'll say it comes with additional dollars. Now, it's hard to break that down. But I think, David, what you talked about is all the other benefits as well.
Sure.
And the social benefits that libraries bring to the table, too. It's all part of what economic development is. I don't see Belinda here because I've always preached this, but it's part of what you make up your community, your hospitals, your libraries, your arenas. All that is part of what your community adds value, that people come and they want to come and live here, and they want to bring businesses here. So it's all part of that too. So that's that dollar figure that they come up with.
Sure. And
that's a stat that can be borne out pretty good. But that Fergus one is a big example. I mean, without having that downtown draw, that would be hard for the Fergus merchants downtown. They're fighting against the box store situation. So good example there.
And if you look at the statistics in general over the whole year, like they had over $1 million in basically statistical status of turnovers of use of the libraries. Also in your statistics, you'll see the people that have hit our websites from all over the world, you know, from Germany, from Australia, from the States. So it's getting a lot of information even that way. So it's pretty interesting.
Go ahead, Mark.
For you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, David, for the county always has good report with stats and that. So my first question is with the landfills transfers. We're ever on the horizon looking at recycling or doing something else with styrofoam rather than burying it? We've been doing that forever. It's got to stop. Are you looking at that? Or?
So right now, they're still basically landfilling styrofoam.
Yeah.
One of the things that, and actually I was talking to Campbell Court just as we came in today. He was at a waste landfill seminar, and if I quote you wrong, you can smack me later.
Or no.
In general, through the whole province in Ontario, in average, the landfill lives in Ontario's perspective only have 14 years of life left. which means what I'm getting at is there's a very short period of time that we have to look at trying different ways to lengthen our landfill sites. We are a little more fortunate in the county of Wellington. Our current active landfill site, we're opening very soon a new cell at Riverston, which will give us another 25 years of life. But how fast does 25 years happen? So we're going to have to look at technology. We're going to have to look at different means of trying to divert more to lengthen those timeframes.
And one of the things that, Mark, that we're hoping for, and we're waiting to see what's going to happen with our blue box program and whatever, is if the province does come through with the new, if you're a manufacturer and you create the waste, you have to look after yourself. So that's happened in BC, and it's changed a lot of the aspect. I mean, and again, if you're using styrofoam or you're using, obviously that would be an issue. But certainly we have to get back to this packaging situation we're into it now, which we have a ton of packaging and you know, that's something that I don't know if styrofoam falls into that. I don't know, but like I would think that we'd have to put some kind of heavy cost to us looking after styrofoam because it shouldn't have to go in a landfill. My wife is a great believer. Like she looks at everything. I go and I put that in the wrong bin and everything else. But she has it down pat. She gets really ticked because we don't do enough. She thinks because we could, maybe some of this stuff can be recycled at other places. Yeah. But again, it comes down to cost and what we're willing to subsidize. But I think it all comes back, if we can get this right, if the Ontario government follows through on what the studies have been, where manufacturers, if you manufacture and put a little piece of material and you have a big package around it, hang it up on a shelf, then you're having to look after that whole thing, the plastic, everything there. So if we get to that, I think that's the way we're going to keep our landfills where they are. The other thing that we're looking seriously at through our Smart Cities program that they're running with the City of Guelph, and we had a little presentation at Economic Development today, is all that recycling of food waste and whatever, and how we're going to bring that back around and keep it in the food cycle. And that's what that whole part of this Smart Cities program that we're hoping to get the $10 million next package. If not, we've walked some of the road already. So I think it's something, solid waste is something that we have to keep looking at. I always remember my dad was on county council way back when, and I had to go down to a dump meeting. I lived in Elm at the time.
That's landfill site.
Landfill site, yeah. Yes. I'm sorry.
Dump
landfill.
is a bad
In the
word.
old days, it was dump.
Doris
Yeah.
Newman set me straight about 15, 20 years ago.
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
So Dad comes down for supper, and I said, and we stopped in, and he said, I got to go to this public meeting down in Elora because they wanted to put a landfill in Alma, outside of Alma. And I said, well, I'm going down to that meeting because I have a placard, but I can't go down with you because I'm going to be at the back going, don't do it in my neighborhood. So that was many, many years ago, and recycling. So this has been a problem. And as you said, 14 years is the average that's left. There's a lot of communities out there now that are having to truck their all over the place into the States, and it's not good. So I'm with you, Mark. I'd love to see it all recycled somehow, but
I don't think there's any good news for styrofoam.
styrofoam, I think, is the good news would be just to ban it. That would be the good news, but I don't know if they can do that. But that'd be a province thing.
Yeah.
So, okay, I have also a question. The library stats, I follow them pretty close too. This year, we're down about 11,000 circulation in the county. Over 2,000 of that is in our own library. And our programming is down in the computer use and the wireless use. In Hairston, it sounds kind of gloomy, but I don't know, why is it down up here? We're proud of our library.
Oh, sure. So it's like a roller coaster ride. So when you look at this, when you look at the programs in January, a lot of that could be due to weather. It could be due to what's happening or what's available. And you'll notice that if you follow the stats and they continue on, and if you go through all of them, they will come back, they'll come down. I know, for instance, if you look at Harrison's down a little bit, but Palmerston's up a little bit, and Clifford's up a little bit. So they're not big numbers, but they do fluctuate back and forth. They're still being very heavily used.
I just noticed that was for the whole year. That seemed to be, I don't know why, but it's very rarely down. We're always increasing in use.
Now, part of that also last year was the new build in Hillsburg. And no, but in the overall usage, you were thinking if the overall usage was down? No. Okay.
And okay, so whatever that. Okay, so the OPP report. This is amazing to me. I didn't realize this was happening. The last 7 years, 2 out of the last 7, the calls in Minto have increased over 1,200 a year. And it's like assaults, thefts. They're the highest domestic disputes. And
Yep.
Doesn't paint a very good picture for us up here. I know it's not a, the police have to deal with it, but I remember Ron had an OPP. We had a report here late in the fall and about crime and whatever. And just the trend doesn't look good on
Now,
those charts.
Just a point on, and I think when Inspector Lawson was here, they changed how they do some of the reporting, and because I saw that too, it jumped up on us, but they weren't reporting like, so you can't go back like too many years. I think we can compare 2000 and I have to go back and check this 2017 mark to 18, but we can't go back to 16 because their reporting is different. So there more things were in the report, because I remember there was a big jump last year or beginning of last year, and I went, what the heck's going on? And then I found out that it was a statistical thing. They weren't reporting some things, so they changed it. So I think, and I'll go back and check that for you to confirm, or you may know, David, but it was the jump from 217 to 18, but you're on the board. So there was from 16 to whatever, there was a jump, quite a bit of a jump. Yeah, 23 total. When we're talking total calls for service, 23,000 to 28.
Yeah.
And then now there's 28 to 29. So I think you can only compare 217 to 18 and then 19 because if they calculate them differently. And that was brought to our attention.
That's right.
Because there was a big jump and I went, what the heck? Yeah. So that might be part of it. And I don't know if I didn't look into Minto. Yeah, Minto went from 24 in 16 to 36, and they were 38 this year. So you can really, I think you have to look at that.
You batch your
from
numbers.
17 to 18, and you can't look at 16 because they weren't the same statistics.
Right.
But I'll confirm that, but that's what I was told at the time.
But I think, Councillor McKenzie, the thing about it is the calls are increasing. It's increasing. There's more issues increasing. And that's why this, realizing that's why this draft plan of a community safe and well-being plan is coming forward. It's a risk assessment program that they will come to the municipalities and say what, and every municipality is different. Like Mapleton's different than Minto and North Wellington and Errand. So each municipality has its different issues. So they're going to set up separate risk management plans for each municipality. And how can we address it? And how can we eliminate some of these calls happening? Because obviously the increase of these calls are more cost.
It's up in the north. It seems to be higher than the rest, and it doesn't look good. But,
That's right.
I'm glad they're addressing that.
Yep.
Anyway, thank you for the report.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, gee.
Just in relation to the police services with the mental health, the impact group, do you know if those hours reported there, total number of hours of officers related to mental health and hours spent at the hospital, is that per month or annually?
That's annually.
Annually. So how big a drain is that for the police services to provide? Because as we comment frequently when we're driving by the hospital, there's police cars there all the time.
True. And that's a huge issue that we're dealing with. It's currently being addressed. The deferment of calls by this team is a good issue. It's moving forward, but there's still our OPP services are still spending way too much time in our local hospitals, and there's a pay ratio that if the hospital calls the OPP in for an issue, because if you look at Palmerston Hospital, they don't have a safe house or a safe room. It's not there. And when they're working in staff and they only have night shift, they may only have 3 people on night shift. And they've got to deal with emerge and everything else. And if you have a person that's a little bit, has behavior problems and stuff like that, sometimes you need not only 1 officer, but 2 officers. And they have to stay there until they have room in down in Homewood or a psychiatric hospital or whatever. And it's a huge drain on the OPP and a huge drain on our costs. So we're dealing with that and looking at that. And hoping to meet with the hospital boards to see if we can get some resolution to this. If the OPP, sorry, Ron, I'll get back to you in a second.
Okay, sure.
So if the hospital calls the OPP in, the hospital pays the OPP for that service. But if the OPP brings somebody in on their own to a hospital, then the OPP have to pay for that cost. So that's the difference in costing.
Fine.
part of that impact is also they draw from the hospital and different services and bring them to a point of problems too. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So if there's a housing position where things are upset, at least know that an impact team would come in, and with that they would bring the various groups in with them, not just a police officer to try.
That's right.
Actually, I saw it in action, and it was wonderful how they handled the situation. So it does work. Not sure about the costs, but costs are irrelevant if you solved the problem that could have been serious.
You either pay the cost from the OPP side of it, or you pay the cost of the hospitals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as a witness, I agree it does work.
Thanks, David. And just to give you a heads up, all these reports that David brought to you and showed you, and the library report, the OPP report, it's all on the Wellington County website. Any of us can pick it up. Any resident can pick it up.
That's right.
And they can look at it. And if there's any questions, you can always bring it back to us and ask and identify a question either to David or myself up here, or any other county councillor, or they'll get the answer for you, or to staff. But they do a great job of, as you're right, Mark, of doing good reports, and they're there. And the one we didn't see today is the museum report. Now that's always a great read, because there's always lots of stuff happening in the museum, and make sure you go on those reports and peruse them, because they bring you a lot of information, and we don't reproduce them here every time, but it's nice to have David come and give us a little update and put them under the gun, so to speak.
Next time I'll give an extensive report on the museum, because so I don't take up.
No, it's fine. No, we can't do it all. I mean, that's fine. And by the way, county council meetings are totally open to the public, so you can certainly come anytime you want and fill up the gallery in Guelph. If you find a place to park, you'd be good. That's the hard part. Anyways, well, they're working on that. Anyway, so I guess I'm going to do budgets a little bit, and I'm not going to. I just took the highlights, and again, the whole budget is on the system. I thought I would, afterwards I put this up, Mark, and I forgot to put the 10-year forecast. I think you had asked about that, and I can get you that information. You had mentioned about where there's a 5-year and there's a 10-year forecast now on capital stuff, but these are the highlights we're doing for this year, so I wanted to bring this to you. But you can pull that off the budget, and we can go through that, you and I, if you want, because a lot of those change as we go because of all kinds of reasons. But this is sort of the highlights that we've got that we worked with this budget this year. And as you can see, we spend quite a bit of money on infrastructure, including $24 million that we're looking at upgrades in our facilities, our garages, Arthur, Errand, Brucedale, Harrison Public Works. But that Harrison's the last one, by the way. I just have to let you know that's 10 years from now. But that's one of the things we're looking at going forward. The construction of a new Errand ambulance station. There's a lot of talk about this. So we had a ambulance report, and we'll be doing a bit more of this because we're going to have I think it's going to be in May. I was talking to the warden today. I think hopefully it's in May. I think have we already got the date? I can't remember. We're doing the strategic plan or the action plan update for the council. So we're going to have some independents come in and look at some of these bigger projects. But when we do a capital 10-year, we kind of throw it out there. And one of the things is Errand is one of the concerns we have is the ability for ambulances to get to their spots quick enough. And so you have to understand with ambulances, and I'll just throw this out, as City of Guelph actually runs ambulances. We run social services. Dave's the chair of our social service committee, and we run social services for Guelph. And I'll show you that later on in the budget picture, how much that really impacts us. But they do the ambulance, and that's the province guidelines, so they do the ambulance. And we in the country find that we really don't have the response time we should have. And we've been working with the City of Guelph for quite a while on trying to get some updates and upgrades there. And they have said that they will put on another unit. And then we're also looking at where we have our ambulance stations. Some of them are probably not in the best places from an overall response time. So we had a report on that, and we're looking at going forward with that. So this year we're putting in the budget to construct a new Errand ambulance station, or look at it anyways. And well, again, we could put another 12 hours and 7-day shift in the Fergus area to improve response times, and that's getting people on the ground and getting them out there. Again, we work with the Guelph on that, so that's our addition. David talked about the childcare spaces. Again, childcare is a major economic development driver. If you don't have childcare, you can't get people out working. And we're blessed with our Palmerston facility, and there also is going to be a new one right down between Fergus at our Wellington Place Center. It'll be up and running this year. So we have an additional person going to be doing that. We need another person going there, and 64 spaces coming in there, and that's partially built. And the county's commitment to local hospitals continues, and our last, I think this is pretty well our last money that we've given to the hospitals. As you know, how close is Groves to being done?
I think the finish date is 2019 now,
20
in the fall.
In the fall, yeah.
Yep.
So we're getting pretty close, I've seen. And so that'll be up and running. We're doing some work in the Palmerston, and we're doing work in Mount Forest with our hospitals. Again, great economic development situation there. And we've done over $14 million, I think was the total expense that the county put in. And we have $1 million allocated to something it's kind of up in the air right now, but it's just to get the sort of the ball rolling, and that's attainable housing. I don't like to call it affordable housing, attainable housing. And we're working at Wellington Place. We have some land there. We're looking at options on a continuing care, which I think some of the things is that there'll be some properties there that'll be on leasehold lands. So we'll be starting the project going, but at the end of the day, people will be buying into it. And there's a really good project if you get a chance, go online in Simcoe County, and I think it's up by Aurelia, and it's an amazing thing. And what people did was they were able to buy in at a lower cost because they don't own the land. The land will still be with us, and then they'll buy their unit, and then their unit will be sold down the road or whatever. But that is something that we're looking at. It's early stages on that. So we put $1 million in the budget to get that started, and to see what we need going forward on that. Community Improvement Implementation Fund. Again, the county's done a CIP. I know this council knows that we'll be working on our local CIP to develop it. That's Community Improvement Plan. And we don't go in the country as the moment. Now the county one's across the whole urban and rural areas. So a good example for us would be the hamlet of, I call it the hamlet of Tivadale. There's opportunities there for them with the county system and with our system, that once we expand ours to conform with the county's overall CIP, there'll be opportunities for businesses to not only get our money, but also get some county money in order to take some of these old spots and fix them up and create employment from that. And that's a great thing. So we have $160,000 in there. Again, we're talking about closing phase 1 and opening phase 2 of the Riversdown landfill. There's a bit of money into that for that. And social and affordable housing units that never stops. I mean, how many have we got now, David? You're a couple thousand?
Yeah, pretty close to 1,800.
1,800 that we're looking after, both in Guelph and the county. Those have to be constantly upgraded, and unfortunately we lost a bit of money there from this last budget, I believe, that we were hoping to get the green energy thing. We were doing a lot of retrofits, which would help our operating, but that went south when they pulled that program.
It's the amount of $4.5 million.
Yeah. So that hurt us a little bit. So then I'm just giving you a little summary of the stat, and this year we're looking at an impact of 2.8%, and that represents on 100,000 assessments, $17 from the county level, and that's what we're working with as well. So that's where we're at with that. In there's about a $360,000 allocation in there for lost money in oomph. And I thought, I was so excited when I saw the letter. I thought we're good, we're in the clear there. But now I find out there's fine print in there. We may still be losing that money because they're still going to do the transition thing, which I thought we were frozen. And my treasurer, where is he? Oh, he's my deputy clerk here now. But he told me to read the fine print, George. And the county has too. So the other thing, I just want to go and show you the operating budgets, and so there's big circles there, right? And these, I believe, they'll be coming with our tax reports.
Yes, they put in a fairly detailed handout, especially the last few years, and it shows you where does our money go.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we haven't done well at the county, explaining where the taxpayers' county money goes. And so we do these in our tax notices we send out, because everybody doesn't realize we collect all the taxes and give the county their share and the education their share, and then we hope we collect our share. So we're sort of the banker. So this is going out in your tax notices. So the thing is, to explain, the overall budget is $221 million is your overall county budget. But that's a little deceiving, because if you can see in there, there's social services of 41%. And if you look down, the next one shows 99.7, because out of that 41%, the city of Guelph, our social services dropped 8 for the county. So we're really, the city of Guelph pays the other 33% of that bigger picture. And so a lot of the people that we have working for us at the county actually being paid, their salaries are getting paid by the city of Guelph, because they're social service jobs, right? So it's a little deceiving. So I'd always like to look at the 99.7. That's basically our budget, right? That's what we do as far as a tax requirement for the county. And you can see from there that roads and bridges make up 28%, police services 17%, long-term care 9%, solid waste 6%, min 9%. So it gets smaller and smaller, and museums like 2%. I don't even say economic development isn't even big enough to be in there, so it's just other. But social services 8%, compared to 41% on the other one. So we still spend our lion's share of our money in bridges and roads and police services, which is really where a lot of the money goes. And the same with revenue, property taxes, sales revenue. That's sort of where you're getting your revenue from. And part of that 46% is that Guelph has to give money to us. So that's why that's there. So that's just sort of a nutshell as to where we're at as far as that budget goes. The budget is totally online. Our budget document has won awards. The last few years, we've won awards for a very implicit, and there's lots of other graphs in there that take time to pull it out and look at it. And as I said, David and I will talk to you about the budget anytime you want on the county level. But we certainly, I think we get a lot of bang for our buck on what we do. And in the north, because of our assessment, we pay less into the county than anybody else. I call ourselves the poor cousins. But so if you're down at Pushlinch or you're down in Errand, they pay about, I think, what's ours? How much do we pay into the county? Our portion?
Our portion's about 44%.
It's about in the 60% bracket of their budget down in those, because of their assessment. So, and over the years, we've probably got $14 or $15 million in projects. Like, I can just off the top of my head, the hospital money that we've got up in the north here, the OPP stations, the libraries, all the other stuff that we've got back. So the county does pretty good to us, and again, we work in cooperation. We work with the roads. We do some of their roads for them. They pay us nicely for that, and a few other things that we can work on. But both levels of government have to work together. So, any questions on the budget? Yes, Ron.
You were talking about the fair share, and I've always thought we've got a fair share of that. Did they still at the county go on priorities if needs get what has to be done, not necessarily where it's being done?
Certainly, and on the 10-year, so 10-year projects, and that's why I'm sorry, I meant to bring that, Mark. I meant to have that slide, and I forgot. I'll maybe bring it another time. And the 10-year projects, say for bridge and roads, lay out where the priorities are going to be for the next 10 years. Now, sometimes it gets switched out, but we've had some fairly big ones in the fact that the downtown Harrison is a county project, as you know, for the revite down there. Palmerston's coming up in the next 10 years. It's in our budget for the next 5 years. Palmerston downtown is going to be redone, the street. And then the roundabouts and the highway coming through to us or whatever. But yeah, so it's all laid out there as far as that goes. And of course, the libraries was a big piece. and that got done. So
And Mayor Bridge, you'd mentioned the county building in Minto. It's the 10th year of the plan, only because it's in better shape than the other ones.
Yeah.
So they've prioritized it down wrong.
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah, and where they have to go and how they're going to have to do them. And again, we're going to be revisiting all those bigger mega projects, and we'll have a better idea after the May, see just where our money's going. Because one of the things over 10 years is, and I have to say it, is like some of these things, like, you know, attainable housing or some of the other issues that we maybe never thought we'd be involved in, we're going to have to almost be involved in from just a workforce planning issue and whatnot. And again, it's how do you work with the other levels of government to make sure everybody shares the load. Like, we should never have had to put into hospitals. I held my nose when we voted for that. But at the end of the day, that was the playing field we were in. If we didn't put our 10% in, we weren't getting those hospitals and we weren't getting those upgrades. And that was just the way the government had said. If you don't put 10% local in, you're not getting them. So you could say, well, out of principle, I'm not putting the 10% in. But I give the county a lot of credit, especially the south part of the county, for coming to the table and saying, you know, even though most of their people went to Orangeville and to Guelph, they supported our hospitals in the north. And that's what it's all about. It's about helping each other, both sides of the fence. So, and when you're down at the county, Dave and I have to wear our county hats as well as we can't really necessarily be, well, we have to wear our county hats as well as being representative of Minto, but
Sometimes sideways.
yeah, it's a tough balancing act sometimes, but you're doing it for the good of the overall county, because anything that happens in the county, if we have a business that comes here, it helps the tax base, it helps the people in Errand. If Errand has a business comes in, it helps us because they help with the tax base as well. So it all works out, right? All part of being a team.
And the healthier our local municipalities are, it also, the healthier the county is.
Exactly.
And that's why we're so willing to work together to make, we're better, stronger working together. And we have a very good, strong county.
A good example is the economic development thing. Like, we have great local economic development, but we need the overall big piece as well. So that's been working well too. Anyways, that's where we have it. Any questions, I'll feel free to ask me. Okay, good. Thanks, Steve. Public question period. Nope. Correspondence. Anybody want to pull any correspondence out? Can I have a motion to move the correspondence? Councilor Elliott, Deputy Mayor Turton, all in favor? Get you next, Jeff. Yep.
The Greenland report and the correspondence, just for council information, Terry has been working with the county planners to talk about that dimensional comments.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Just simply because you know that the official plan and the boundary movements and all stuff are going to become extremely important. So Terry's going to be working, and myself, working with the county planners to make sure all the comments that they have.
Yeah.
So you're aware of that.
Yeah.
On there.
Yeah. And I think that we've got some correspondence as well. I got some correspondence from the province that you know, there's opportunity for us to really not just comment, but our comments will be taken very seriously on planning issues and whatnot. So I know they pulled out of the bill 66, was it? 66. They pulled that one thing out, but that doesn't mean they're not going to look at planning and give us some local autonomy as far as some of that goes. It's just that there was a bit of concern about the green belt and whatever. And but I think we're going to have our voice. And I'll tell you, Wellington County has been up front as far as environmental protections. We have, you know, I don't think there's many out there that haven't been looking in that for years. And to have what was coming at us from the green belt from Toronto was a little bit overdoing. And as we all know, we got caught up in it up in Minto here, which we shouldn't even have been involved because we happen to be in Wellington County. I mean, we're not even in the green belt, and because Push Lynch was in the green belt, we got trapped. So we're hoping that we'll get some of that relief. I think that's what I'm hearing, anyways. Good. Okay. Trails. Hey, Greg.
Mayor Bridge. So yeah, we had 2 meetings, one on November 21st and one on January 16th. The minutes are in front of you. I'm just going to go through a couple of the highlights. The last two meetings have been heavily budget related. Just trying to set what we want to do capital wise and operating wise for the budgets. The November 21st meeting was Deputy Mayor Faulkner's last meeting to sit on the committee, and he requested that he would be able to stay on the committee just as an acting member. The committee voted for that as well, so he's going to stay on the committee, which will help.
Yep.
The more people with more experience on the committee, the more stuff we can do. With the January 16th meeting, it was Councillor Mackenzie's first meeting. We went through a lot of background and what the committee has done in the past and what we want to do in the future. Kind of went over our 3-year plans and stuff like that. So this is the second year of the 3-year plan. We're going to concentrate on the Clifford parts of the Minto trails, do some refurbishing and clean up some areas that the former Clifford Trails Committee identified as needed that. So, is there any questions?
Mayor Bridge, thank you. So we're talking the Dave Mallet roundtable discussion, third line and Palmerston. Are we talking right at Third Creek there? Is that that's like the good idea.
Is this in November or
second
the
set?
Second set?
January. Oh yeah.
Oh, so that's the Mark and you on that.
I think it's worded kind of it's a good idea to what?
So if I understand it correctly, what exactly is he getting at there? Is there not a connection between the third and the trail?
So this is the offshoot off of the rail line that comes up to White's Road. So the bridge there was
Flood got it.
During the flood, it was taken out of commission.
Okay.
And since then, there's actually been a fire on that bridge as well. So we're just in the process of deciding what we want to do with that stretch.
So to give you a little update there, I mean, at one time it was $50,000 deductible on the thing, but the bridge itself to replace was 100 and some thousand. So and then to actually, I guess if we don't replace it, we had to take it out somehow, which was another 20 just to take it out and then do some other stuff. So I think the CAO and for the next trails meeting, we want to have more discussion on what options could be there for that little piece, whether we need it or whether we don't need it. So I think we can certainly come into before we do the replacement. But we're just at this point, I believe, Greg, and if I'm not positive, but we've still been waiting for the insurance company to finalize some stuff on it. So we don't even know where we're at yet on it. But it's certainly not going to be open until we get it rectified one way or the other. Mark, did you have some more comment on that?
That was Dave's comment in the committee. We talked about it, and really, if it's going to be a cost that much to the taxpayer, and it was thought that we wouldn't even open that run, make it a loop.
Yeah, and I think until we get all those figures in, I think we take it back to the committee and give them. Because I'm not sure, did all the committee know that it was 100? Because I didn't realize it was 120,000 or whatever it was to actually replace it.
Yeah, so I think the recommendation that was made was just that some more research be done to it.
Yeah.
I spoke to Chris and I spoke to Gordon a couple times about it. But what the options are, and I think what the result was is we're still waiting on insurance on what they do to
what the actual cost is going to be
and our proper decisions. That we can't make a decision until we know what the insurance company's doing. So, but there are options. Like we've looked at a couple options there.
So in the next Trails Committee meeting, I think we're going to hopefully have some more information and be able to bring it to the Trails Mark for you to talk about some more.
One thing that was brought up was the amount of debris and garbage that residents are dumping at the cemetery. The trail passes through there. Only there, but I think
Yeah,
there's
there's
a
a
spot
spot in
that
Clifford as
they
well.
just
On my
are-
little goon.
don't
So
care.
we're looking at some more signage and
Yeah.
stuff. There's ends of some
Well, I think
driveways and
I think the spot in Clifford, I do believe, is where they actually take their leaves and all the other stuff. Like, I mean, they've decided that that's a place that they can recycle everything and just dump it on the trail because it used to be that nothing was the trail. So I think we have to deal with that. And I'm hoping the Trails Committee, through KELP and other ones, can, we have some cleanup days and we get up there. But it's sad that people would use a trail and drop their garbage on a trail. I mean, that just doesn't make sense. Take it in, take it out. Especially at the cemetery. And the cemetery, that one is, it probably doesn't get used other than people walking.
yeah,
It's not connecting to
it's
anything.
the link between conservation.
Yeah.
The conservation part there.
Okay. Motion to accept. For Dunstan, Mackenzie, all in favor? Okay. Thank you. Can't wait for spring to get out there and get that done. Oh, aisle officer, where is he? Staff reports.
Mayor Bridge, members of council.
Welcome, Cam.
Dog kennels. So dog kennels under our zoning bylaw are considered restricted use, and in order to get one, you have to meet certain criteria. You have to apply for a zoning amendment to begin with. So letters are sent out to everybody within 120 meters of the property, and then you get to have a council meeting. People get to speak for or against, and then it's up to you, the council, to decide whether or not to allow the zoning amendment. So with the kennels, once that's done, then they must apply for a kennel license. And once the kennel is all set up, then we do an inspection of the kennel to make sure it meets criteria under the dog bylaw. So, and then we also we can do random inspections of these kennels down the road if we get a complaint. We can go in at any time, reasonable hours, and do an inspection, bring a veterinarian with us or whatever's required. So right now we have 14 licensed kennels in the town of Minto. We have one person that is going through the process. And with that, we have one kennel right now. One person has a kennel license, and they haven't had dogs for I'm not sure how many years now, but there are no dogs on that property that I know of. One boarding kennel, 3 properties that license their kennel, keep their kennel license up because they have more than three dogs and they want to keep them all. 4 kennels are registered. I believe they're registered purebred dogs, and I can't say for a fact, but I'm assuming. I know a couple do belong to kennel clubs. The other ones probably do as well. And the rest are selling unregistered purebreds as well as what we call designer breed dogs now. So
Designer breed, I like that name. We used to call them mutts, but it's alright.
months, yeah. We're being played.
I know, very nice. I've had a lot of those designer breed dogs. I never knew I had them.
Those were well designed though. Anyways, the kennel fees right now, we're charging $150 per year, $200 if you pay after the 1st of April. Which is, it's pretty close. Some municipalities in the area are only charging $100, some are charging up to $500. So we're kind of in the middle there. There were a couple that I came across. They have an escalating fee schedule, which I think looks pretty good because the more dogs you have, the longer it takes to do the inspection. So somebody that's keeping 5 dogs because they don't want to get rid of any, they pay the $100, whatever. Somebody that has 30 dogs or more, they pay the extra money. So it kind of pays for itself. And as for capping the number of kennels, we have that option of doing it, but we've only had, in the past 15 years, we've only had one application for a kennel license. So it's up to you as council to decide whether that's what you want to do or not. But you also have the opportunity to turn down the amendments of zoning. So to me, I don't feel the cap is necessary because you do have the option of denying an amendment or license.
Thanks, Cam. Any questions for Cam?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Bridge. So do you think that that's something that we should pursue here? The number of dogs that you have, you pay more, larger herds. I agree with what you say. When you go out to do an inspection, and there's a lot of dogs, it takes a lot longer, I'm sure.
Well, to me, it seems more fair if you have 10 dogs in your kennel, then you pay this much. But if you have 30 dogs in your kennel, 25 dogs in your kennel, you pay this much more. So to me, it seems like a more fair system, but that's you guys.
Definitely.
Kim, if you get a report of an unlicensed kennel, what is the fine or the charge to those people for?
$500.
Thanks for the report, Cam. Just wondering, do you find many inadequacies when you do an inspection? And if you do, what kind of inadequacies would they be?
Not really. Like they book an appointment, so they know I'm coming. The kennels are generally clean, and I don't think that these guys that have kennels in town are cleaning up a lot to make it look pretty. Just like I think they all run a fairly decent operation. They're not all breeding for, like you have your purebred dogs. The other ones are probably going to pet stores or individuals. I don't know. So yes, I think they are reasonably clean.
And have we had any complaints? Like, have you ever went out on a complaint basis?
Once it was your daughter complaining.
Oh, well.
Little family dispute.
It sounds like a family dispute. Using dogs as a pawn.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Thanks.
Oh, thanks.
Alrighty.
Now, the motion here is that the Council of Town Minto receives the bylaw officer's February 19th, 2019 report regarding current dog kennel bylaw and provides directions to staff for further updates to the current bylaw. Are we going to update? Do we feel we need to update the current bylaw? I understand that recommendation.
Well,
You're saying you need to talk some more and decide. That's what it says.
Oh, is that what it says? Mark?
I kind of agree with the fee scale. It's a like our Pam said, it takes a lot more time to inspect.
Oh, I got you.
36 in it, or 120 or 25 than it does 10. I don't think we charge enough for kennels. But I like the graduated scheme, but maybe these figures could be touched up too a bit. Examples, and my other concern was the renewals of. Talk to Terry about that. If they don't renew their license, they're still eligible to have those dogs. Grandfather up to 120 dogs, and we have sitting there now that hasn't done anything for a couple of years, maybe. So it's kind of.
Do we have 120 dogs?
Not many.
No, so keep renewing the license
For 120. So
yeah.
My thoughts were to, if a license, if an operation ceases for that long, you have to start over again and apply for the 25. I can't seem to do that. I don't know if that can be done or what, Terry, but that seems to be a lot. We opened the doors up at one time to have that happen, but it ceased.
So basically, that kennel is a legal non-conforming use until they cease to keep renewing their license, regardless of whether there's dogs in there or not. So if they stop based on an escalating scale or some other method, then after a period of a year, then they would lose their legal non-conforming use status. And then the only way to operate a kennel again would be to come back, apply for rezoning, and then they would be capped at the 25 at that point.
right. So when we do this recommendation, like, uh, is everybody happy with maybe doing the graduating one? Is that what you're thinking? You know, like, and I don't think, was there anything else? I mean, I was comfortable with the fact that we don't, if we do get a rush on these, we can certainly cap it at any time. We haven't decided to cap it, so I'm not too concerned about that. And we've only had one in 15 years, so.
Yeah, we've had a couple of people that have not or kicked tires about doing
Yeah.
it. But at the same breath, it was the ones like Cam mentioned, they've got a few more dogs than what a typical dog tag license allows. So they go through the whole rezoning process just so they can have their
4 dogs.
6 pets in the house. So I would hate to penalize those opposed to a breeding kennel if we do put a cap on it.
All right. So, second that, and who?
So what is the motion? Sorry.
The motion is that we're going to look at we're going to look at the graduation.
At these prices, at these
Not necessarily.
amounts?
I think we're going to come back with a report. Like, that's a recommendation. Let's look at. I wouldn't mind seeing. I don't know. Like, if we look at what our existing ones are and see where most of them fit in. You have an idea? Yeah, because I mean, if like I'm wondering if people are just doing it 4 dogs because they're not really running a kennel, they just want to be able to have 4 dogs rather than they're only allowed 3 under them. They're being at least honest citizens. So you penalize them too much, like, but they're a kennel, like, maybe, and when you get up, if I don't know, you can come up with a number, but I'd like to know how they fit in now.
We can bring the stats back when we bring back an update.
Well, that's what I thought.
With the
Is that fair enough?
So, yeah, we can definitely.
Okay,
do that.
is everybody?
Should we defer the motion then?
We're seeking direction right now.
We're just taking direction at this point. That's what this is.
The direction that we're asking is that you give us direction and you
Yeah.
bring the bylaw back to you.
Yeah.
To,
All right. To vote on.
Rescind this bylaw. And you have to approve the new bylaw with all this in it.
Yep.
And then you can have a discussion and approve the new bylaw.
Yeah, it'll be added to the bylaw that's got 16 pages long, by the way. I've read the bylaw. 16 pages long.
Maybe 17.
Every 17.
You have to read it.
Mark, Mark, you won't move that?
I do. I got one more, just to be clear on the relicensing. Our bylaw is written okay to address. They have to go through the hoops again. Is that it?
So no,
grandfather.
the way the existing one is, grandfathered kennels can stay as is until they stop operating as a kennel, which includes obtaining their kennel license. Then they would have to go through the process again. Then they lose that status.
So paying a fee is operating.
That is under the bylaw. It is operating.
Just a question on that. If it's non-conforming, can they sell the property and that goes with the property?
Yes.
That's why they're doing it then. Okay, because they've got a fairly good building out there, I believe, and
It was purpose built.
Purpose built for a kennel, so they obviously maybe want to keep that option open to them, which is fair.
Pretty cheap.
Yeah.
It's a bit of housekeeping. And
Yep. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Moved by Mark and seconded by Dave. All in favor? Okay. It will be coming back to you shortly. You're still up there.
Oh, yes. So I have a few reports for you.
Oh, gosh, yes.
My first one is my building bylaw. So it's another lovely long bylaw that really I haven't changed a whole lot since the last time. There's been some updates in the actual text of the building code and building code act itself. So a lot of the changes I made were just to basically make sure the references match with what the codes are today. The only 2 major changes that I did add, one is to require a mandated, engineered or surveyed lot grading plan for new infill lots. The lots that we have out there, infill, like in between a couple of existing houses, are getting a little on the tricky side to grade. Had a couple of slight grading issues that I'd like to nip on the butt. I'm referring to new houses.
Yeah, I know.
So anyways, that's one of my proposals is the mandated grading plan, and the other is both a grading and an infrastructure damage deposit. The deposit is out there, like I can require a grading plan, but if there's no financial incentive to actually do it right, then we would have to go in, fix it, and then bill it to them on tax as opposed to having that little pot of money. And the other aspect of that is infrastructure damage. So they unload heavy equipment on the road, twist it, and it rips up our asphalt. They ought not to fix it. We've got the money to go in and do it. The key on both of those is the deposit doesn't kick in until projects over 25,000. So that's bigger than your decks, bigger than your average small shed. So it's not, I was worried about implementing a deposit where it's a $500 garden shed and a $2,000 deposit. Then I get to chase people, which I don't really, not interested in. So doing something that it's feasible, but in the bylaw itself, there is still wording that if they damage infrastructure, regardless of the deposit, we can go in, rectify it, and bill it to them as taxes. So our infrastructure would be protected if this bylaw is passed. So my recommendation is to, accept my report and pass the bylaw as presented.
Moved by Jean. Jeff, all in favor? Good, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. So the next one is, as you all are, I'm sure, familiar with this site. This is the Harrison Senior School property
Oh, is that what it
in town.
is?
We just went through some rezoning and a bunch of stuff on this one. So this time there's the proposed condo or application for a condo development. And at this point, it's similar to like a severance or a subdivision application where we have a chance to put in conditions on the approval as we see fit. This type of condo development is different than most because they've done all the planning applications prior to this point. So site plan approval, all that stuff's done. So really the site development is not changing at all. I don't feel the need to add any conditions into the condo approval regarding that. Just the conditions I want added or start at the bottom of the page there, and they're more maintenance and essentially a heads up for the future condo owners that this is part of their responsibility. So it'll be maintenance repair of the hammerhead. This road is not wide enough for parking on either side or one, so they're going to have to provide both signage as well as maintenance of those signs. I did throw in another clause for, and this will be part of the condo agreement, is that the condo corp is to approve any fencing type that goes up there, just in case the condo corp feels like there's a need for a similar look for the development for people to put fences up. Another one that we do need is an easement for access to our storm pond, so we can use the private road to maintain our storm pond and a couple of outlets there, as well as to flush the private hydrant that's on the site. And the last condition is just that we approve the condo agreement. So that's the legal binding agreement registered on title signed between the condo corp and the individual owners itself. So just to make sure everything that's in there has our interests protected. Any questions?
Can I move her? For Elliot? Or Dirksen? All in favor? Very good.
Perfect. Thank you. So my next report is, I believe, my monthly stats. So it's only January, so things aren't too drop dead, extremely exciting. We did 8 permits last month, worth a little under 400,000. So in terms of dollar figure as well as permit numbers, it's January. We're basically right on par where we should be. So the big items for this month or last month, we did 2 commercial permits. So an addition onto an ag facility and renovations to a commercial building in town, which added a couple of new apartments. And our 10-year average sitting at 4.5 permits. Year to date, almost double that, which doesn't sound too crazy at this point with 8. So obviously we're still doing some business there. And our 10-year average is 244,000 in construction value, and so we're higher than that at this point as well. Yes, Mark.
You guys are very happy in that photo of the
Yeah, you
in
think
the greenhouse.
Yeah, that's a greenhouse.
Hi,
Lots of
healthy and
plants.
happy.
Sunflower
Tomato
plant.
That was a little gift I got when we left. Little baggie
Oh,
for me.
little baggy.
Not quite. Not quite.
Not quite. We didn't get that out.
Anyway,
There's security there.
No samples.
No samples.
Never said it.
So those pictures were taken at a tour of 7 Acre facility in Kincardine. Just with the interest in the cannabis industry, we felt it prudent we should go check things out to see what sort of issues that we're starting to hear out there, ways to mitigate them.
Quite an operation. Yes. Mark, move it. Judy will second. All in favor? Thank you. And I hear you're busy too. You're still.
I got a couple of things happening. All right. So my last report for this evening has to do with another application that's been in front of you a couple of times. This has to deal with the former Anglican church property in Hairston here. You've seen it through both a rezoning application as well as a severance application. One of the conditions on the severance application had to deal with servicing. So the existing church building has a sewer lateral to it that does not have water. It obtained its water from the community hall beside it, across where the new lot line is going to be servicing the church. So as part of the severance, we require that a lateral be installed for the church and that cross connection disconnected. Due to the time of the year, we can't obviously rip up the road, fix it, and install all the laterals. So in discussion with the church, we've opted to take a $2,000 deposit to ensure that the work both on-site and off-site are done. So there's clauses in there that they don't do it by the 31st of May. We have the authority to go in and do it, bill it back to them. Also, the church is going to hire a contractor approved by Public Works staff to do the actual taps to the main and bring it to at least the lot line at the church's expense. So essentially, it's not going to cost us anything. All the work is good, approved. The church gets their $2,000 back, and we're good.
I have a mover and a seconder for that. Deputy Mayor Turton and Councilor Anderson, all in favor?
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Roads. I'll turn this over to Judy.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Bridge. We have one item on the agenda this evening, and Chris is going to cover the report.
I'm going to cover this report for Mike and work with Mike on it a little bit, but this was was talked about in the capital budget earlier. It's the William Street servicing for Clifford. We went out to tender. You can see the prices that we got back, buy prices, which means two things. We're getting good pricing because we're getting lots bid, and we're doing the right thing by going out early in the year to tender to get this pricing. We wait till later, then I'm pretty confident to say we don't get as quality of pricing and that. So the lowest bid is Hannon Hamilton, who we worked with many times before and had no problems. The good news is the project has come in under budget, so that leaves us some room for the contingency fees, depending what they find when they dig down. But also there is the possibility that when we tendered this project, it was just to take it back to gravel, not to asphalt, that this will leave us some money maybe to take it back to asphalt on William Street and get the asphalting done as well. So it is good news all around on this project.
Any questions? Okay, I have a mover and a seconder. Mayor Bridge and Deputy Mayor Turton. Questions, comments? All in favor? Okay, that carries. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll turn it over now to.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. We've got 5 items on the Treasury tonight. A lot of them, the board's going to talk to us about them, but the first one is the minutes of the settlement and assessment adjustments. Board.
Great, thank you, Chair Turton. Minutes of settlement are things that have been processed by the Assessment Review Board, and they're mostly changes in use here. And we have a few properties that were commercial and are no longer commercial. That's there. And we also have properties that often, when they change hands in the rural areas, farm properties temporarily switch over to residential designation, and the proper paperwork is filed and it goes back to the farm. Also, sometimes people appeal their assessment and they'll look at the overall, and sometimes that will result in a change in assessment class. So that's the first batch in the settlement.
Thank you. Board, the recommendation is that the council receives the February 2019 report from the treasurer and the tax collector regarding the assessment adjustments and that the adjustments be approved. I have a mover, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Anderson. All in favor of this motion? Against? Thank you. That's carried. Second item is, go ahead, Gord.
That's right. It's very similar to the first one, only it's usually a physical change. It can be an assessment change. So it can be such a thing as removing a mobile home or taking down a barn. Also, we have reclassifications, and often between commercial and industrial, and sometimes when the property itself may not physically change, but the use, so you could go from a manufacturing facility to a retail or a warehouse, and we have a couple of those.
So the recommendation is the council receive the February 2019 report from the treasurer and the tax collector regarding section 357 applications, and these applications be approved. Councillor Gunson, Councillor Mackenzie, all in favor of that motion? Against? It's carried. Thank you. Are you against that?
No, I thought maybe you'd see my hand if I put my hand up there.
I'll get you the next time. That's a promise.
He did see it. He did see it.
This is exciting stuff.
Trying to
So
get in there for a motion.
this one's a little
Why
more
do you get in there,
exciting.
don't you?
This one here is a little more exciting. It's to
Yes.
do with the lease agreement in Palmerston. Gordon.
Yes. Well, this is regarding the property in the middle of 215 William Street, which is the former Minto Hydro building and former daycare center. And behind that is a garage that we have leased to T&M Catering for about a decade. They gave their formal notice and they related to Harrison. And we had some expressions of interest, and one of them is a local company, and they wish to use the same property. Coincidentally, the T&M agreement was going to be up later this year, so basically we've proposed terms with a bit of an increase and then some inflationary adjustments. The good thing about this agreement from the town's point of view too is that the tenant pays the utilities, and because it was located on a former hydro property, it has electric heat. So it's not an expensive business to maintain.
He knows all that, Gord.
Yes, he knows that all. He's signed an agreement. Both the old tenant has been really good to work with, and
Any questions for Gord on this? One question, Gord. Do we, the inflation, does it go up annually, or is it just a contract?
I've got starting at $500 a month.
Okay. So no questions? So the recommendation is that the Council of the Town of Minto accepts the February 13, 2019 lease agreement 1026800 Ontario Limited. Report from the Treasurer. Considers passage of the bylaw authorizing the Mayor and the Acting Clerk to sign the lease agreement. Thank you, Mayor Rich. Seconder, please.
I thought you were going with Councillor Dirksen. I think Councillor Dirksen was going to get that one. I was
Councillor
sitting
Dirksen,
back.
thank you. All in favor of that motion? Against? That's carried.
Oh.
That beat you.
You know, I was back here. I wasn't even actually looking to do that one.
You had your hand up.
I did.
2018 Council remuneration. Treasurer Duff.
So this is one of our statutory duties, and so this is the total operations of the council. Again, it has that perky year period, so it goes from December 1st, 2017 until November 30th, 2018. So basically, you can see it's broken down by councillor for regular earnings, per diems, expenses, so even if I did look at it on a calendar basis, that's what we see, and we are close to slightly under budget on.
Slightly under budget.
Again, it is hard to compare because we're right.
Questions?
Yeah.
All right, hearing none, the recommendation is that the council receives the February 11th report from the Treasurer regarding 2018 council remuneration for information. I have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Gunson, Councillor Elliott. All in favor of this motion? Against? That's carried. Last item,
All right.
approval of accounts. Gordon?
Okay, so a couple of highlights. Admin is a lot of payroll remittances for Life and the Receiver General. The largest one in economic development is talking about industrial parks, servicing Noble Road for $215,000, and we also have the sign in Palmerston for dollars there. Public Works, of course, you know the many ice storms we had, $22,000 in salt, herbicide, and another about $17,000 in sand. And some design work again, as we mentioned in the capital budget meeting. We're looking at design work on the Palmerston wastewater facility, so we're hearing about $40,000.
Questions? I understand we might have a little freezing rain tomorrow today, so I sure hope we can save some salt
Yes.
Bump it up.
and sand. Recommendation is the Council of the Town of Minto receives the Treasurer's report dated February 14th regarding approval of accounts and approves the Town of Minto accounts by department for January 2019. Councillor Anderson. Seconder, Councillor Dirksen. All in favor of the motion. Against? That's carried. Thank you very much. I'll pass the chair back to our mayor.
Okay, and it's
Thanks, Gord.
business is disclosed, and I think Ron, you have two.
Yes. I wrote them down so I wouldn't forget. I went to help them, volunteered at Norgan Theatre today, and the movie was A Beautiful Boy, and all the grade 9s from Norwell were there. I think there's around 130, 150 of them. And the movie A Beautiful Boy is about a young fellow who got involved in drugs. It's probably the most impactful movie that I've ever seen. It was just unbelievable. If you get the chance to see it, or a young person that gets a chance to see it, I believe I watched that young people at that movie, and they were drawn to it. So I assume some of the kids that might want to get involved in it probably won't now. It's very impactful in that way. And I just want to say, police, Stephanie were there, and Jess was there. Sorry. And they brought forward their mental illness program. We talked to the students after about that. A lot of this drug use is to do with the mental part of it too. And on the Lion support, if it was someone else supported the movie and paid for the use of it. It's just, I'm so happy that they're moving forward with this. There's again 150 kids that have the opportunity now. They can find somebody to talk to and bring it forward to. And that one of the things in the movie is this, that felt he didn't really have anybody other than his family. He did get a sponsor to talk to. Never had that opportunity. It's quite a movie, and we should thank our people that are going forward with this mental illness program to go ahead and do something like that. It's really, really good. Second thing I had as the Lions had their annual Valentine's lottery, and right here in this room, we have two big winners.
Two winners.
Councillor Anderson
To Vegas.
won, and I assume your name is on it too.
I don't know.
I think he said that. He said I was going with them.
He said he was taking me to Vegas. That's all I know.
He won the Vegas trip, and the grand prize winner was
I'm going on the
Councillor McKenzie.
Maybe I'll go on the cruise with Mark. I don't know. Maybe
his was a $3,000 cruise. I can't believe it. Everybody cheered when both of you guys won it. They were so happy.
I bet.
They did that night.
They were pretty excited at the Norgan on the weekend that we won it.
So anyhow, I just thought I'd bring that forward.
That's pretty cool.
Very good.
You should buy a lottery ticket there, Mark.
I do.
Apparently he does.
Yeah, he has bought a lottery ticket too. Dave.
Maybe that's our
Yes,
problem.
thank you, Mayor Bridges. I was fortunate enough to go to the Walkerton Clean Water Center with Mr. Mike McIsaac on Thursday, and it was one of those responsibilities under the statutory standard of care, Safe Drinking Water Act. And I just wanted to say that, I mean, this young lady that was teaching us knew Daryl extremely well. Her and Daryl kind of grew up together in the DWQMS stuff, and it just brought back some memories for me. And I just, it's amazing for us here to have such great staff. And I know with Daryl and Gord and his crew doing the DWQMS over the years, and then and now Todd, we're fortunate because going to this seminar, and I know some of you guys have been there, and I know Jeff was going to go, but he was doing other things, and you should go because it really hits the nail on the head. It really brings it home. So, and there was another thing in here too on one of their folders that was very interesting. And the third thing is I heard that the WCWC might be on the closing block, and that would be extremely sad. Have you heard anything about that?
Haven't heard anything on that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Couple items. I just wanted to say kudos to the staff for this fantastic document. It even smells good. It's it is just chock full of such really. It just shows our town of Minto in such fantastic, great light. And so I just want to say kudos to the staff and everyone who had input into this. And I'm wondering if there are some extra copies that we could, you know, when we're outside of our community, that we could, you know, sort of accidentally drop in the waiting rooms and stuff like that. Because I'd certainly be willing to do that a couple of places that I would think of off the top of my head. So because it really is a great come and visit us, come and live here, come and work here, whatever documents. So yeah, it looks really good. And then the other thing I wanted to just remind everyone of is the Wellington Farm Home Safety Association is having a Farm Safety Day at the Alma Community Center, sometimes called the ACC, and that is on Saturday, and it's a breakfast, and it starts at 9ish and goes till 11ish, and there's booths, and the kids can go around and pick up stuff, and they can talk to the people at the booths about the different safety things. So, so if you're available, you're welcome to attend that.
I just have. Is anybody else? I have one. I just wanted to thank fire department and Chris and everybody else that was involved in the Monday's event. Yeah, Darren's Day. It was amazing, and I went to the breakfast. I don't know how many you served, Chris, but that was a lot of people for breakfast. 402 hours, and they did it so well too, and it was all local stuff, and I know the kids had a great time out there with all the different activities that were going on, and the softball tournament, snow tournament. They had all kinds of things. I think the highlight for me was the fact that we took on the OPP, David, just to let you know, when you're at your next police service meeting, and they had 14 people pulling the fire truck. We only had 10. I volunteered myself and almost died. So it was 11 of us on our side. 10 and a half. And the hard part for me was once we got it going, I mean, I actually had to run. And I haven't run in so many. I thought I was going to get tripped and fall and people would die. But anyways, we pulled it in 29 seconds, the whole length of the arena. Fire truck with 500 pounds of water in it. It was a pumper truck, and the OPP did it in 32 seconds. Did a great try. And so when you do your day down at Palmerston, you might want to ask the fire department if they want to do that again, because like we're undefeated. They may want to take us on. I think they want a second chance because I think we might retire. I'll be retired for sure because I'll never be able to do that again and survive.
I think it's because of a council conditioning program.
But I just want to say from the family, Pam was just awestruck that they did it. And I think that there'll be something. It'll be like I think Fire and Ice. It'll be an annual thing. I think it was so many people enjoyed it, and we had such good weather for it. And I think that probably could be an annual. Put that on Chris's plate and do it on that basis. But it shows what volunteers can do, and I think everybody really had a great job. There'd be 1,000 people there probably altogether.
It's really good.
From the town and doing it on that family day, which was really good. So those make me feel really good, all those events that we put on and do that. And great to hear, Ron, about the movie, because I've heard that movie is an amazing movie.
It is. Get the opportunity.
Yeah, I'll try to see it. My granddaughter would have been there. She's grade 9. So, anyways, I haven't got anything else. Has anybody else got anything? No? Moving along. Yeah. Been a long day. Moved by Councillor McKenzie, second by Councillor Anderson. The Committee of the Whole convenes into regular council meeting. All in favor? Carried. Notice of motion. Any notice of motion? Okay. Moved by Councillor Dirksen, second by Deputy Mayor Turton. The Council of the Town of Minto ratifies the motions made in the Committee of the Whole. All in favor? Okay. Moved by Councillor Elliott, second by Councillor McKenzie, the bylaw number 2019-18 respecting construction, demolition, and change of use permits and inspections be introduced, read first, second, and third time, and passed over the Council, seal of the Corporation. All in favor? Moved by Councillor Gunson and second by Councillor Elliott that the bylaw number 2019-19 to authorize the mayor and acting clerk to execute the rental agreement between the Corporation of the Town of Minto and 1026800 Ontario Limited Borough be introduced and read in first, second, and third time and passed over the Council, seal of the Corporation. All in favor? Okay. Moved by Deputy Mayor Turton, second by Councillor Dirksen, the bylaw number 2019-20 to authorize the mayor and acting clerk to execute a site servicing agreement between the Corporation of Town of Minto and the Incorporated Synod of the Diocese of Huron be introduced first, second, and third time and signed and passed in open council, seal of the Corporation. All in favor? Moved by Councillor McKenzie, second by Councillor Gunson, that bylaw number 2019-21 to confirm the actions of the Council of the Corporation of Town of Minto respecting the meeting held February 19th, 2019, be introduced, read first, second, and third time, passed in open council, seal of the Corporation. All in favor? And the one everybody loves to hear. Moved by Councillor Anderson, second by Councillor Dirksen, the Council of the Town of Minto adjourned to meet again at the call of the mayor. All in favor?